If you love wry humor, candid observations, and a peek into the absurdities of daily life, then today's book just might be for you. Today, I'll be reviewing Carnival of Snackery by David Sedaris. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today we're taking a look at yet another one of David Sedaris' books, one of his most recent books, although not his most recent. I am trying to make my way through all of his books. I've, over the years, read several of them, and I decided this year to finally fill in the gaps and read the ones that I had not yet gotten to. And today's is an interesting one. It is actually a sequel to one of his earlier books called Theft by Finding, which was an edited version of his diaries from the mid-80s up till the early 2000s. This one, on the other hand, covers from 2003 to 2020, so it is going to entail a whole lot of what has happened in my life, looking in, of course, the wake of 9/11, the Bush administration. That's actually one of the things that you'll hear him talk a fair amount about, is all the different shifts in, the politics and the election of Barack Obama, and then, of course, the election of Donald Trump. And all of that is a part of what he is going to go into a fair amount of detail as we look at David Sedaris' life. A big part of this book is stuff like going on book tours and his time in foreign countries, although you find that a fair amount in other books as well. I think it's even more pronounced in this one. And then, of course, just the mundane hilarity of everyday encounters, especially the way that he makes them funnier. And not always just because the way he writes and his observation of things, but I do feel like he has just really weird things happen to him sometimes. At least that's how it seems to come out in the way he writes about it. So if you're familiar with Sedaris and you already know he has a knack for turning even the smallest moment into something memorable, then you are just getting a whole bunch of that in this book. I mean, this book is no exception, and it's just packed with snippets of his signature wit and his unexpected emotional depth. I would say, unlike a traditional memoir or essay collection, this is a diary as advertised, and so it's raw. I wouldn't say it's unfiltered. He obviously made some choices, but it's certainly filled with the kinds of entries that range from the hilarious to the poignant to the downright difficult. And so Sedaris really just captures everything from the political events to bizarre exchanges with strangers, making each entry feel like you've stumbled into a private conversation. It very much does feel like a lot of his essays. Now, unlike his essays, this is just going to be short little stories, and it doesn't have quite the same polished or refined feel that you're going to get from his essays, which I think, after reading so many of his essays, is great. I really enjoyed this opportunity to get a little bit of behind the scenes look, and he himself has talked about how, some of his earlier works are basically just a step beyond a college writing assignment, and you can see how his practice of writing in his journal, but doing it in this very deliberate way, has given him his expertise and his ability to be a humorist and to write about the world around him in a humorous and intriguing, and, like I said, at times a rather profound way. I would say in this book, the greatest through line is probably his relationship with his father, who may still be alive. I know by the end of the book, his father was in his mid-90s, and like I said, it came out in 2020 or 2021. And so if his father is still alive, he's in his late 90s at this point. And David Sedaris has not had a very good relationship with his father over the years. He's explained why. I think his sexuality is the biggest reason for that, although he also just seems to have a tendency to just really frustrate his father in the way that he'll antagonize him, go after him. But I would also say that his relationship with the rest of his family is a really important part of it as well. But he seems to get along with his siblings much better than he does with his father. And so that seems to be a much more obvious element of the storyline that you're following, is how it is changing with his father. And for the most part, it doesn't change dramatically. He frequently is still frustrated with his father, doesn't understand the way his father thinks, he doesn't understand the positions his father takes. But on the other hand, you do see these moments where he does clearly still care for his father, and despite the difficulty of his relationship, you can see why it becomes a central part of this book. And I would say you can also see that in some of his more recent books as well, is that this relationship with his father really is a really important part of his life. And even if he doesn't always seem to like his father very much, it certainly helps you understand why he is the way that he is. This book is certainly longer than his usual books. It is several hundred pages, I forget exactly, but it's probably at least twice as long as really any of his other books, aside from the first volume of his diaries, the Theft by Finding. Both of these together are probably almost as large as the rest of his collections combined. There is a lot there. I really enjoyed this volume much more so than his first volume, and I think it's because of, like I said, you can see his abilities to comment and to really just think about the world and his interactions and to write about it in a funny way. You can see that improving. And so even though these are not full essays, you can certainly see how they are the beginning of essays, and you can see how he is really making that progress, even though, you know, he's what, in his 60s now, but this is someone that's clearly still refining his craft, and I think these diaries are actually great evidences of that. So who would I say this book is for? If you already like David Sedaris, I think you would enjoy this. If you're not sure you like David Sedaris, you could enjoy it. I'm just going to tell you that it is longer, and like I said before, you are not going to see his fully fleshed out stories. I do think for someone that thinks they would be interested in this type of writing, the essayist writing most well known for, then this could certainly be a good reference point for you to see, oh, this is his process. This is the way he thinks about things. This is where he also takes a moment to recount and think about his interactions with people and make sure to do it in a memorable, sometimes funny, but also just a thoughtful way. And I would say that if you think that that would interest you, then this certainly could be here for you. I did laugh, to be clear, even though these are not like his refined essays, there are still going to be plenty of times that you laugh, just because, like I said, he himself is funny, his observations are funny, and just he seems to have weird things happen to him. I mean, keeps coming up, and I certainly managed to enjoy that element of it. Who is this not for? Well, if you were looking for traditional storytelling, that's certainly not here. If you're even looking for his fully fleshed out essays, those aren't really here either. If you are going to be put off by the length of this, then this probably isn't for you. And then, as usual, he certainly has some discussion of LGBTQ issues, he himself being in a long-term relationship with another man. And those could be some reasons why someone may not be interested in this book, but I would say that if those are not going to put you off, then this is certainly a book I would recommend for you, because I found a lot of heart and humor in it that I would certainly recommend other people to try and enjoy, and to just really appreciate the very relatable, cantankerous nature of David Sedaris. He is someone who you can see a lot of self-absorption and a lot of self-indulgent in the way he thinks about things, but this is also someone that spends a lot of his spare time out picking up trash on the roads, and someone that does spend a lot of time trying to make the world around him a better place. I may not always agree with the way he does it, and he may certainly have his little idiosyncrasies that might make that challenging, but I do think that his just ability to appreciate the oddity and the weirdness of the world around him, which makes his works very much worth reading, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Please let me know what you think, whether it's about this book specifically by David Sedaris or about any of his other works. Please let me know in the comments. But don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.